Hello and good morning everyone. I hope that everyone has had a lovely morning. I'd like to say thank you on behalf of Lothian Travels for attending the tour this afternoon. My name is Jessica Lothian and will be your tour guide for this afternoon. I have been working for Lothian Tours for 3 years now and I have loved every bit of it. Lothian Tours has been operating in and around Edinburgh for 15 years, showcasing some of Scotland's most iconic and historic sites. Today we will be visiting Preston Hall Estate. This is a family-run estate home with Georgian architecture. But before we visit, I would like to go over some health and safety points to ensure that everyone is safe at all times during the tour today. On the route today, there will be a lot of paths that we will be following. I would like to remind you to watch out for the path's edges, uneven surfaces, steps and door frames to reduce the risk of any slips, trips or falls during this tour. Some floors and steps inside the main house are very old, which can mean they are very uneven. I'd like to ask you to walk slowly and carefully as we continue the tour around the house. Today we will be walking around a lot of forestry, so please respect the grounds as we will be walking through by staying on the provided paths. Photography is allowed during this tour, so please feel free to bring out your cameras and take photos at any moment of time. As we will be walking through the house, I would like to ask if you could please not touch anything without asking first, just to reduce the risk of damage. In events of a fire or evacuation, please follow me to the designated fire area where it is safe, far away from the fire. If you are the one to find the fire in the building, please sound the alarm straight away so everyone else in the building can get to safety. The fire designation area is at the front lawn at the very end, so everyone is safe. And finally, if anyone gets lost during the tour, please contact me on my mobile phone number 07 496 553 935. At the end of the tour, everyone will gather at the fire assembly point at the end of the lawn and we will meet you there. At the end of the tour, everyone will have the opportunity to walk around the walled gardens and the ponds if they'd like. Now that the health and safety bit's over, let the tour begin. Follow me to the main house for the short 3-minute walk. Preston Hall has been in the Callender family since 1789. Between 1789 and 2021, it has seen 13 generations of Callenders grow up between its walls and tell its story today. The house has stood on the ground since 1700, and in 1738, a widow, Henrietta Gordon, bought the estate and hired William Adam to make adjustments to the home before her son then put it onto the property market in 1780. After working in India with the East India Company, Alexander Callender travelled back to Scotland to buy a home for himself. Before buying Preston Hall in 1789, he bought some neighbouring estates in Elphinstone and Crichton. When he first bought the home, it had been empty for a decade, so work needed done immediately. This is when Robert Mitchell, a London-based architect, was employed to knock down and replace the foundation stone of Preston Hall in March 1791. Sadly for Alexander Callender, he never lived to see the end of the house being fully finished. This then meant that the house was passed down to his brother, John Callender. He fully finished making the house by 1801. As you walk up to the right from the walled gardens, you will be met by the grand stables. The stable block was designed by the great Robert Mitchell, and this was built and completed shortly after the house was. Many years ago, it was initially housed for over 30 horses. This also included accommodation for 15 stable boys and room for all the family carriages. Once Preston Hall was finished, it was then known to be one of Robert Mitchell's most famous important pieces of work. The mansion house now remains hugely unchanged from its original form. Small changes have been made over the years, for example in 1850 when David Bryce decided to add a front porch to the north side of the house. From then, this then became the main entrance. Here we have the 18th century walled gardens. Having been built in 1806, just after the house was fully finished, the walled gardens remained untouched. It was originally used to supply fruit and vegetables for the main house, and the flower garden was used to supply flowers for numerous high-profile guests who would stay with the family in Preston Hall. The wife of Henry Byrne Callender, Cecilia Margaret Callender, then modified the gardens in 1888. As she was a great lover of the outdoors, she put in a huge amount of time and effort to make the gardens beautiful for all her family and guests to enjoy. The most noticeable feature of the gardens are the two gazebos. One has a staircase that leads up to the octagonal room where Cecilia would like to sit during the day with her afternoon tea and watch the gardeners put in the hard work to create the beautiful gardens. Behind the walls are two cottages. One was and still is the home to the head gardener, and the other used to accommodate the other gardeners and has now been transferred into a holiday let cottage. In the peak of the garden's life in the 1890s, there was up to 15 gardeners working here daily to keep the uphold of the garden's appearance. From then, the garden continued to grow until the 1970s, when the garden soon became too expensive to upkeep and maintain. But luckily, in 2011, Richard Edward knocked on the Callender's door asking to see the walled garden, as he has heard of its overgrown state. This was because he was looking for a restoration project. He soon made it his mark and then transformed the overgrown garden into what you can see today. Because of Richard's hard work and dedication, the beautiful gardens are now to be hired for private events and weddings. I would like to say a big thank you for everyone for coming with Lothian Travels to the beautiful Preston Hall. My name is Jessica, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to come and ask me. If you are travelling by Lothian coaches back to Edinburgh, please arrive back at the fire assembly point by 3 p.m. this afternoon. You can now have a wander around the walled gardens and the ponds. Thank you so much for your time today.